Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Welcome to Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and tonight we're going to be talking with 4 women who are running for office here in Fairfax County. These 4 women represent those running for school board, a seat on the Board of Supervisors, and for chairman of the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. Joining me right now is Karen Keys-Gamarra, who is an at-large member of the Fairfax County School Board. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you ran in a special election in 2017.
I did.
That was actually the second time you had run for the school board.
That's correct.
Which only goes to show, first you don't succeed, you just keep on trying.
That's right. That's right. Run again.
Run again. I mean, and I think for women candidates, that's a very important lesson to learn. We have mutual friends who've had to run more than once.
Absolutely.
To get the office. But now you've been in the job since 2017, and there's a lot of things going on with the school board right now, and I think probably one of the issues that people are talking about is One Fairfax and the issue of racial and socioeconomic equity.
Yes.
Can you kind of describe for our viewers, what equity is and how that's different from equality or other things that could be confused with that?
Well, equity has to do with, first of all, with respect to One Fairfax, I look at it as a system of accountability. As we provide services through our educational system, we want to put on our equity lenses to make sure that we're dealing with the entire county, we're dealing with services in an equitable manner so that no matter where you live, you have the same access to the world-class education that we have available in Fairfax County.
And it's a huge county. It's 1.2 million people. It's the 10th largest school district in the United States. Everywhere I went to the South by Southwest Education Conference, and I'm like, I'm from Fairfax County. We have the 10th largest school district in the country. And we're doing a lot of things right, but it's a massive school system.
That's right.
And it's just area-wise, the western part of the county, the eastern part of the county, the southern part of the county, very different. And it's broken up into magisterial districts. So you're an at-large member. So I
cover the whole county.
You cover the whole thing, which means that you are looking at these issues in a much greater, aspect. I mean, how many schools can you possibly get to?
Just keep trying.
I know you do, right?
We're a work in progress. Fairfax County Schools is a work always. We're always trying to improve. Even when we do things well, we try to look at that and see what can we do better. How can we reach more students? How can we provide our services with fidelity?
But we've got 48 Title I elementary schools, and I know schools go in and out of being Title I, mainly because of the measures that they use for Title I. So last year there were 41. This year there are 48, and next year that might be up or down.
That's right.
But give us a little bit of background on what Title I schools are and what that designation means as far as resources.
Well, they're basically our students where they have a high percentage of free and reduced lunch. So it's a socioeconomic indicator. So we know that when there is a higher poverty rate, that can impact a child's access to education. So we take that into account, and we provide additional services in our Title I schools.
And so what are some of the initiatives? I know there's committees on the school board, and you sit on several different committees. So tell us a little bit about some of the initiatives you've been working on.
As a Title I am the Title I coordinator, so I get to go to those meetings, and we actually have a fantastic committee this year. They've been very active making sure that they get out the message. We've got some very positive things going on in our Title I schools. Kids in elementary schools who are accessing the IB program, the International Baccalaureate, where they're doing capstone projects and they're involved in high levels of critical thinking, and they really are being challenged to a degree where they're being prepared for advanced academics.
Because that's what Fairfax County really prides itself on, is having a world-class educational system. It's a matter of making sure that that's true in every corner of the county.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so that is going to be a challenge. So what are some of the other committees that you sit on?
I sit on governance, which is lots of fun. Just really making sure that we do things with excellence, that our procedures are well executed, and we're in the process of. It's a very kind of a boring position to be in.
But somebody's got to do that
But
job.
somebody's got to do it, and it's very necessary. I also sit on the audit committee to make sure that our procedures are transparent, that we're reporting appropriately, that our citizens have access to our information, that we're constantly reviewing to make sure that we are good stewards of the finances that we're provided.
I think we do a pretty good job too of the school board meetings. You know, I mean, not every school board meeting is well attended. It depends on what the issue is, and sometimes it's incredibly well attended.
Yes.
But you know, it's very open and transparent. People can watch it if they can't be at the meeting. But pretty much everything the school board does, people can tune in if they're interested in finding out what it is the school board's working on.
Absolutely, and we have work sessions and forum topics. If those are not necessarily televised, but they're always recorded and available to the public.
And people should care about this because, if I'm not mistaken, the funding for education is like the largest piece of the county's budget.
That's correct. That's right. Over 50% goes to our schools, but we're also educating nearly 188,000 students.
Right, and so neighborhood schools also matter because, you know, people who don't have children in school, why should they care about schools? Well, first of all, because your community, a lot of the value of somebody's home or the desirability of a community is how people perceive that school.
Well, even beyond that, businesses move to Fairfax County because of our schools, right? The schools are really the bedrock of our community. If we don't have good schools and we're not preparing the next generation, we're building communities in our schools. We're building individuals to be able to contribute as vital members of their community. And so really, you know, it's not just about home values. It's about creating a child who learns how to make good choices and has good choices and has those opportunities to be able to go on and come back and contribute to this community and be the leaders of tomorrow.
And I think that certainly factored into Amazon HQ2's decision to come to Northern Virginia. The offices will be in Arlington, but Prince William County, Loudoun, Fairfax County will also see employees. Hopefully they'll hire people from this area, but there'll be people coming to this area, and they want to put their children in good schools.
Absolutely. We anticipate a number of folks working with Amazon will be moving into the Lee District, Mount Vernon, etc.
So right now, I know, you know, facilities are always a challenge.
Yes.
You know, because it's hard to figure out whether the population of children is going up or it's going down. We've got students in trailers, a lot of trailers, and that is very...
Although we reduced quite a few.
Good, let's give you a raw for like reducing the number of trailers.
Yes.
But that also means too, as the population shifts and changes, you have to change the district borders. And that's always fraught. People are not happy.
It's a difficult discussion, but you know, this school board has been tackling these issues head on. I've just left an all-day work session where we talked about setting up policies for our boundary changes. We talked about improving our access to advanced academics. We're working on discipline and making sure that we reduce our referrals. Virginia has some of the highest discipline referrals in the nation. Fairfax County is significantly below that, but we can still improve.
Absolutely, and I know that there was a task force that had people from the community. I know Rachna Heiser was on that. Kofi Annan was on that from the NAACP, really talking about trying to address the disproportionate number of minority students who end up being referred.
Well, with respect to the school board, what we've been doing is reviewing our discipline policies. They may have been working within the community and talking about that. But with respect to myself, I have a budget amendment where it is designed to address one, reducing discipline referrals by making sure that our teachers understand, first of all, there may be cultural components to a child's behavior, right? It's age-appropriate behavior, and oftentimes we don't see the right response, or sometimes the teacher may need to learn how to interact with that child, or they may need to have a behavior intervention plan to make sure that a discipline problem doesn't develop.
And it is about keeping kids in school and in the classroom, correct? I mean, attendance is one of the things that the school board is looking at. And how do we keep kids in school and not... And one of you were on a menstrual equity panel with me last week.
Yes.
Where we were talking about that very thing and providing menstrual hygiene products for girls in public schools, which we'd like to see on a state level have a mandate. But up to that point, it's about keeping girls in the classroom, not going to the nurse's office, not going home, not staying home, but instructional time is so important.
Right. Well, this equity work is really about removing barriers, right? For the girls, we want to make sure they have access to those menstrual products so that they can be in class, so that they're not missing because they don't have access to products, or they don't have to go to the nurse and have this walk of shame, but they have easy access. They can get back to class, do what they have to do, and they keep learning. The same is true of the discipline matters. We don't want discipline matters to interrupt the learning process. And even if a kid makes a mistake, then we want that to be a part of their learning so they can keep going, and it doesn't become a hurdle to them accessing education.
Absolutely, and I know that, you know, there's a new SRO policy, is that correct? A student resource officer policy?
We rewrote the Memorandum of Understanding, and that involves both FCPS as well as the county. And we're trying to make sure that SROs are there for safety reasons. They're there to provide guidance to administrators, but when it comes to discipline, that really should be the job of the administrator and not the SRO, because we don't want to criminalize normal, childlike, age-appropriate behavior that really should be met with appropriate guidance from a caring and trained adult.
So down in Austin, Texas, I can tell you there was a lot of talk about providing mental health resources in the school system.
Yes.
Guidance counselors and other kinds of professionals. And this was kind of interesting to me too, not just for the students, but also for the teachers.
Yes.
And the fact that teachers need support too. And that was kind of like supporting teachers in professional development. Lots of talk about how we can better support teachers. I know we keep talking about teacher pay, but even beyond teacher pay, providing these kinds of necessary support services in the school, how much of a priority is that?
It is a priority. I mean, a part of our strategic plan is to provide a caring culture for both our students as well as our staff. And so we've begun, for example, in one of our schools, we have a pilot reporting that they feel much better, that they can handle the rigors of their day. And so we're looking constantly for ways to support not only our kids, but also our staff members.
And so I just want to say, as we wind up our segment, that, you know, the school board offices are nonpartisan. Therefore, there is not a primary, but there is an endorsement process through the Fairfax County Democratic Committee. So you are seeking the Democratic endorsement,
yes,
and
I
that will happen on May the 21st for people who are members of the FCDC.
And they have to join the FCDC by March 22nd.
And in the whole point of seeking an endorsement, the Democratic endorsement, is there is a sample ballot.
That's correct.
There's not an R or D next to the names, but there will be people at the polls handing out sample ballots.
That's correct.
To know who the endorsement.
And people need to get involved with the local process, the local government process. That's really where the rubber meets the road.
It is true, because this is the most local of offices, school board, and it could not possibly be more important. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here, Karen Keys-Gamarra. Please join us after the break.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. I already posted it.
I got a crick in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. But I don't scared of. Very sad, no more love. All that I can do was remember you. You know I usually say no, but if you throw me love, I'll feel it some more.
It's a big responsibility.
Oh, it's huge. I know, it's huge.
And the salary.
Oh my god, yes. I mean,
Right?
like, I was about to move in with my parents, and right before, so this saved me.
I really believe in you, you know?
Thank you. It's nice to hear that from someone.
These are cool. Did you, what did you?
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and tonight we are talking with 4 women candidates who are running for office in Fairfax County, looking to shape the future of Fairfax County. Joining me in this segment is Ricardy Anderson. She is running for the school board in the Mason District. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here.
So a lot of people watching may not be familiar with you, right? So we were talking at the end of the last segment about how this is not a primary process, it's an endorsement process. And so people in the Mason District Democratic Committee will select or who they will endorse on April the 24th.
Correct.
So on March 22nd, everybody who wants to be part of that process has to have their application in.
Absolutely.
Then the Mason District Democratic Committee will meet on April the 24th. They will vote to endorse a candidate, and then that will be presented to the FCDC, the County Democratic Committee, on May 21st.
Correct.
So I have worked with many candidates in the past, and oftentimes you struggle if you are not somebody you've worked in these political circles before, but you've actually been in the Mason District for 11 years.
Yes, I have. We have. Actually, this is the month that marks our 11th year in our home. And so we have been in Mason District since 2008, and I have been part of the community there for the entire time. While I'm not known in some of the circles, I'm known very well in our little area because I have been our HOA president for the past going on to 9 years now. My husband and I, we've been very involved with Mason District Little League. I am the treasurer for Mason District Little League. My husband has coached since our son was 3 and he's going to be 10 in 2 months. I am also a Girl Scout leader. I am the money manager for our daughter's Girl Scout. And also we've been very involved with the Annandale Boys and Girls Club. My husband is the commissioner of one of the teams, and he's been coaching for a number of years. And I've always been the official, unofficial mom, photographer, team organizer, and all of that.
So this is what gives you such a unique perspective, mainly because you are an educational professional in every sense of the word. Your doctoral degree is in education. You have been a principal. You have been a classroom teacher. You have done all of the things inside and outside when it comes to education. But you were living your life not thinking about politics.
Not at all.
Not thinking about politics. And so often, especially women who decide to run for office, have been doing all the things without necessarily being involved with all the local politics.
Correct. I've not ever had the goal of being a politician. I only want to be engaged in this because this is an educational endeavor. And I'm at the point in my career where I have the chance to serve this community, and I want to do that. As you said, I have been in education my entire life. I've walked into more classrooms than I can actually count. So the very work of the school board, the very work that we are all talking about, it's been my daily work for the past 23 years.
And you've done that in Loudoun County,
Correct.
DC, Prince George's County, and in
Correct.
California.
Yes, in 2 districts in California. I worked in both Hayward and in Manteca. And you get a chance to have a lot of different opportunities to learn how people do business. The challenges are very similar, but the way that they're addressed is sometimes dependent on your community, your size, because all of these districts differ in size. But I am coming in with a lot of ways to kind of peel the onion a little bit, because I've seen how these different challenges have been handled across a number of different districts. Something that I was just telling someone not too long ago is even field trips. You know, in Fairfax County, the schools have to raise the money through their PTAs and PTOs to fund field trips, which can be an issue because if you're in a community which has difficulty raising funds, which is my community, then maybe the field trips are not as abundant as they are in other places. And I've worked in other places where the field trip is a budget line item. It is not the responsibility of the school to raise the money. It is already provided on a per student ratio.
So let's talk about your specific district, because the Mason District has more Title I elementary schools than any other magisterial district
Correct.
in the county. So already there's a lot of diversity in your county.
Correct.
A lot of the things we were talking about with Karen in the earlier segment are sort of writ large. It's very concentrated in the Mason district. So knowing your district as you do, how important are these issues of racial and socioeconomic equity to the students in your district?
In our district, it's paramount. It is the key issue that is part of my platform, because when you do have a community that is such like Mason District, high number of students on free and reduced lunch, lots of Title I schools, and a lot of students who are English is their second language. That brings some different challenges to the classroom, and that's the part where I know best. I know what it takes to instruct students who present those challenges, and we do need more resources to make that happen. I'll give you another example. We have, in my child's school, the PTO raises money for school supplies.
Right. Right.
Which is a shame, because other PTOs are raising money for things that go above and beyond to really support that 21st century learning experience, which we're saying all of our Fairfax students should have. And I think that we need to really be mindful of what do the communities have and how we can strengthen in the areas where we need some additional support.
And strengthening our public school system, right? Because it's about making sure that our public schools serve every student where they are, where they live. You know, and I think your advocacy in every school board member who represents a district is bringing to the school board their advocacy for what their particular students need.
Absolutely. And when we have strong schools, because I've worked in neighboring districts, I know parents have moved out of this community. I've registered parents who've come to my schools and who say, well, you know, we're school age now, so it's time for us to find a good school. Not realizing my own children go to the school in the very neighborhood that they're leaving, not realizing that I live in that neighborhood that they've just left. So it is important for us to have confidence that, one, all of our schools are providing that awesome educational opportunity for all of our students. And we need to be able to foster that confidence in parents, because I know that you talked about with Karen a little while ago, when we have strong schools, we have strong communities, even if there are no students in your home.
Right. And I think we really need to think about, you know, something Karen and I had talked about before the show is that when we talk about the American dream and living the American dream, it's always focused on the individual, the accomplishment of an individual. We don't talk about the dream including a community and how you create opportunity and make a place where people can do well.
Absolutely. Education is the great equalizer, and having access to that education is the key piece for many of our families. Similarly with my family emigrated to the United States. And so having access to a good educational system really helped to bring all of us forward into the places where we are today in our lives. So personally, I've seen that story. I know what it looks like. And so I know what I want it to be for the children in Mason District who look like me.
Right. So Grand Involve, I sit on the board of Grand Involve, and you came in and actually talked to us, which was wonderful. That's how we met. But we put retired seniors into the classrooms of Title I elementary schools. And we're not in Mason District yet. We're moving into Mason District.
Can't wait.
We're in Mount Vernon. We're in Lee District. We're adding more to Lee District. But, you know, Grand Involve to me was always such a great community program, because what every program has is retired seniors who want to do something meaningful and valuable. And so putting them in the classrooms with these children's math and reading tutors provides an extra set of hands for the teachers.
Absolutely.
But we're also looking, as Grand Involve, we're also looking to have volunteers that are culturally very diverse. You can't see what you can't be what you can't see. And so for the students in very diverse communities, teachers, you know, recruiting teachers, getting people of diversity to choose education as their career. I mean, what are you seeing long term are some of the solutions we need to be looking more deeply at?
As someone who had the opportunity to open up a brand new school, I had that very same thinking. I wanted for our teaching staff to reflect our students. And it is hard sometimes when you're not getting that diverse group to select from. We have to grow our own. We have to engage in partnerships with the local schools so that our kids are leaving high school and going into teaching programs and then returning back to us. Because that investment in them will be a return back to us, because they are our community. And if they come back to us, then we'll have that opportunity to see that our teaching staff reflects our student population, because that's really important. As you talked about disciplinary measures with Karen before, having an understanding of culture It is so helpful in understanding why certain students behave in the way that they do. It's not always just defiance. Sometimes it's just a misunderstanding because in their home, in their culture, they do things a little bit differently.
Well, you know, that's one of the things at South by Southwest, I can't tell you, cultural competency was one of many of the breakout sessions was all about cultural competency, cultural relevance, and the fact that in this country, not just in Fairfax County, in this country, we have young white women in almost every classroom.
Correct.
We do. And so how do we get students with diverse backgrounds to go into education? And what is the county doing about that?
Well, one of my platform issues I'm hoping is that teacher compensation piece. We also don't value education as much as we have, I think, in other times. While we may love our teachers, we may want to honor our teachers, we have to compensate our teachers so that they see this as a viable position, as a viable job option. I have, again, and working in neighborhood districts, I've hired so many teachers who were teachers in Fairfax County because they couldn't afford to live here. So we have to make it desirable enough so that people are attracted to the profession. All kinds of people are attracted to the profession. And so we can have that diversity in the workforce.
And they have to be able to afford to live here. And that's one of the things, you know, affordable housing is kind of going to be one of the marquee issues, I think, in this election in Fairfax County, no matter who's running for office. Because if teachers cannot afford to work where they live, that takes something away from the children in the school.
And I've seen that many times. And working in Loudoun County, I have hired numerous teachers from Fairfax County who said, I cannot afford to live here. And I know they're awesome teachers because I've hired them. And that shouldn't have to be the case. Teachers should be able to live in the community in which they're serving. And I'm looking forward to being able to work on that matter.
And so just before we close out here, give me some idea of what some of your initiatives, what are some of the, you know your district better than anybody else. What are the things that you would want to focus on first?
The things I want to focus on is the equitable issue. We have to make sure that our students in Mason District 1, and first and foremost, they have access and resources that that mirror the rest of the district. Secondly, we have to be sure that our teachers are paid so that they remain in this position. We also have to focus on disciplinary measures, restorative practices, rather than punitive measures that do not account for learning, for opportunities for students to grow from the mistakes that they make. We also have to have mental health support for our students, additional dual enrollment opportunities for our students in Mason District. We have to offer a breadth of opportunities for students who want to go to four-year colleges and for who do not, because that also reflects a lot of our population in Mason District as well.
True, because we have a good community college system. Here in Virginia, Northern Virginia Community College, students can dual enroll and they can get certifications so that they can be career ready. Thank you so much for being here, Ricardy. I've enjoyed talking with you. Please join us after the break. We are going to be talking with Kelly Hebron, who is running for lead district supervisor. Please pay attention to these upcoming endorsement processes if you are a Democrat in Fairfax County. Join us after the break.
Your time is gonna come. Your time is gonna come. It's up to you to reach out to be that friend who comes along. Your day is gonna come.
When you make a friend, you make a difference.
Your day is gonna come.
Friendship. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
Good one, son.
Last summer, my new dad took me on vacation. First, we went deep sea fishing.
Wow! I'm so proud of you, son.
And then we went on Thunder Shark. That was awesome! Let's go again! 3 times. I gotta say, it was pretty cool.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
What's it feel like when a woman's having a heart attack? Chest pain, like there's a ton of weight on your chest. Severe shortness of breath. Unexplained nausea. Cold sweats. There's an unusual tiredness and fatigue. There's unfamiliar dizziness or lightheadedness. Unusual pain in your back, neck, jaw, one or both arms, even your upper stomach are signs you're having a heart attack. Don't make excuses. Make the call to 911 immediately. Learn more at womenshealth.gov/heartattack.
Operation Wonder Park is a go!
There's nothing more powerful than imagination.
Honey, have you seen my cell phone? But don't just imagine.
My park came to life?
Ooh, a plot twist.
Use STEM to build, create.
She did it.
And change the world.
Who's with me?
I'm more of a 2 feet on the ground kind of guy.
It's gonna hurt tomorrow.
If she can STEM, so can you. Find out more at She Can STEM.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and tonight we're talking with 4 women who want to shape the future of Fairfax County. They are running for a variety of offices, and in this segment we're talking with Kelly Hebron. She is running for Lee District Supervisor on the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. Thank you so much for being here, Kelly.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So people may remember that we did a show together before on prison to paralegals because you started a nonprofit to create opportunities for formerly incarcerated people to actually have jobs when they have done their time. And so that's kind of part of one of the reasons I think you're running for office. Somebody asked at a panel the other day, who here can talk about criminal justice reform? And I'm like, Kelly, this woman over here, she can.
Yes.
But that's just one piece. You actually have an interesting background. Your degree is in economics, a master's degree in public policy, and then you are an attorney.
Yes.
And you're a professor.
Yes.
Okay, but putting all that aside, tell us about Lee District.
I'm happy to. Lee District, I've been a resident of Lee District for 20 years. I moved in 1999. I was single, I had a little dog, and a Honda Civic Coupe. And now 20 years later, I am still living in Lee District. Life has changed. I'm married, I have 2 little girls, and my husband and I are raising our daughters in Lee District. So we find it a good place. It's diverse. It's a great location. You can get in and out of Lee District pretty easy. So if you're looking for a place to live, I do recommend Lee District.
So talk about some of the things that are specific. We talked about affordable housing.
Yes.
That's a problem a lot of places. I won't say it's a problem every place, but it's certainly a place in certain magisterial districts.
Yes.
Transportation. Education.
Yes.
These are all things that, as a member of the Board of Supervisors, again, you're advocating for the things to meet the needs of your particular community.
Yes. Here's one of the things that kind of prompted me to run. There's a voice that's missing at the table. We've had for so long a very small table of stakeholders, but that table is much larger. Things have changed, things have grown, and Lee District, the representative for Lee District needs to reflect the community itself. We need a voice at the table that reflects one Lee District. We need a voice at the table that reflects the voice of everyone who has been, whether they are dealing with a housing crisis or whether they're dealing with tax issues. It is a big, diverse district. Lee District is not one neighborhood. It is a diverse neighborhood where we have some of the most expensive homes in the county, where we also have some of the most dire housing circumstances. And so we need to make sure that voice is represented no matter who is which member of the community. We have Title I schools, and we have a very large high school combined with a secondary school. It is broad and it is vast with Lee District, and I think that's what makes it unique. Lee District ranges from Franconia and Greenspring all the way down to almost to Fort Belvoir, and that's a really big area when you think about and what it accomplishes. It has numerous languages that are spoken in the district. It has numerous restaurants to reflect that diversity in the neighborhood. One of the biggest things is affordable housing. We need a place where we can live, work, and play. Embark is coming to Route 1, and that's a really big deal, and we are so excited. But we need to make sure that we're being smart in our development. We need to make sure that we have a plan where it leaves everyone not just taking them out of the neighborhood, but also brings jobs into the community. We're looking at Lee District as a place where people can stay, where people who work can afford to stay and live, which helps our economy.
Right. So you mentioned 2 very interesting groups of people. Greenspring is a very well-known retirement community.
Yes,
it's very large. It's very well regarded. In fact, I think they have their own polling place there. Their own polling place there.
Yes, they do.
But then Fort Belvoir, we have a lot of military, and we haven't really talked about that yet tonight, that there's a lot of military families here, and that's a very transient population.
Yes.
We have a lot of retired military here too, which means we have a lot of veterans. I think we're probably the second state behind California to have the largest population of veterans, I think, is Virginia.
Yes.
So these populations of people, it's not just, you know, people working in service jobs, and I know this has been part of the problem. Years ago, Stephen Fuller from the Fuller Institute had said that the largest segment of job growth was minimum wage service jobs. Well, you can't live on that in this county.
You cannot.
So your district has quite a diversity of just unique populations.
We do. And that's one of the things I think from an education perspective we need to explore more. Workforce development has got to be a key component of any larger scale plan that we look at from a perspective of what is needed, not only in Lee District, but really county-wide. We have so many students that I see coming through at the community college that aren't ready necessarily or aren't looking just to have a degree and go on to a 4-year program, or a lot of students are looking just for a job.
Right.
Because unfortunately, that's the situation that they're in. And when you're looking for just a job, we can provide workforce development training, whether it's prison and paralegal or whether it's another sort of program, whether it's Job Corps. There's a lot of programs, workforce development, that should be tied to outcomes that provide jobs. And so if we're funding workforce development and we can provide tie it to an outcome of jobs, that's something we want to look into, because we can implement it in the school system. We can start implementing it in the high schools. We don't have to wait until our kids get to be 24 and they're trying to find their way. We can start workforce development training programs now in the schools. And we can also tie that to the affordable housing, where we're looking at if we can provide good education that leads to good, viable jobs that provide sustainable wages, we will have less of an affordable housing issue, because we will have a good
living wage jobs. And
yes.
So somebody use the term, of course, STEM, and then there's STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And then someone used the term STEAM-H the other day. I'm like, STEAM-H. The H is for healthcare, because there are so many healthcare jobs.
Yes, there are.
And there's actually a special healthcare center that the Northern Virginia Community College, and I think that's in Springfield, where you can get a certificate to be, you know, a technician. And those are good living wage jobs that people can get. But I don't know how many of our general school population students understand that that's a path for them.
And that's one of the biggest concerns we have. And if you go to certain parts of Lee District, you have a missing retail population. Supermarkets are at a minimum. It's almost like a food desert in some of these places. But that is reflective of what they found in terms of that's reflective of what we found is what's needed. And so if we build it and we provide the jobs, you will have much more of a vibrant community. And I think that's really the focus, is to getting to a point where one Lee District means everyone is thriving, everyone is benefiting. And so it's no longer, we should have a voice at the table that reflects everyone. And that means having a voice that reflects where are we going to build and invest for economic development, for our supermarkets, for our places to eat, because our students, as they're coming out, they do need jobs. And it would be great to have a job where they live. Right now, we have very limited transportation parts of the district.
This is a problem.
It's a big problem.
Because it's a vast county, and we did not early on invest in public transportation.
We did not. And so when you go to certain parts of the district, you will find that you have very limited public transportation. You have a bus system, not the rapid bus transit that will be coming, but a bus system. Well, that limits where you can go and how long it will take you to get to work. And so even if you have to take a bus just to get to the metro, that's another 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's just walking out the door. And so these are the things we need to think about, and we need a voice at the table, and that's why I'm running. I think that the voice at the table needs to reflect the community. I have talked, I have a broad exposure, a broad experience. A little bit about me is that I've been involved in this community, not just because I've lived there, but because I wanted to be there. So for 20 years, I've been on the Community Criminal Justice Board. I am the 11 years representative for the Small Business Commission. I have been on the Economic Advisory Council, which really places me at the table, sitting at the table now.
You're already doing a lot of the pre-work for this job.
As we talk about the strategic planning, absolutely. And then you start thinking about, I'm also a board member for the Community for Business Partnership, which works with small women and minority-owned and veteran-owned businesses to grow and thrive and just start new businesses. And this is what we need. We need more of in Lee District. And so I have had the chance to really hear the voice of the community. And so I'm running to be that voice, to broaden that table. And one of the things I would like to do as lead district supervisor is not only have a transition team, but actually have working groups that are in existence to bring people to the table so that we have that conversation. One lead district starts with the supervisor, and one lead district starts day one with the conversations of everyone at the table.
I think community engagement is so important because people don't feel like there's any way that they can contribute, you know, and especially people who are new to the county or may not speak English as their first language.
Absolutely.
They end up just being the recipients of other people's policy.
Yes.
You know, and so
Yes.
I like the idea of working groups that actually tap into the communities so that you're getting feedback from the people
Absolutely.
who know what they need. You know,
Absolutely.
and so often, you know, especially in elected positions, it's very hard. You're not always down on the front lines. You sit in the government center, you know, and so and you try to make good policies, right? And again, you bring something unique because you have a degree in economics and public policy, you know, and you're an attorney. So that's an interesting combination of things, and the fact that you've always done legal aid work. And I just want to talk a minute about how critical it is to offer something to people who are formerly incarcerated, because we don't even talk about them as a discrete population in this county, and yet they can't get housing. Some of them can't get their driver's licenses. They can't pass a background check and can't get a job. I mean, we need to be talking about these people because they're all over this county.
They are. They're all over this county, and they're very much in Lee District. And that's one of the things. I mean, part of being a legal aid attorney, and I've spent my entire career in public service. I never went to a law firm. It was never my intent to go to a law firm. And one of the things I've had the unique benefit is that I've represented evictions. I've helped to keep folks from losing their home. I'm a pro bono foreclosure attorney. I've helped people avoid foreclosure. I've also helped kids when they have gotten in trouble with the law. I've also dealt with child abuse and neglect. So I've had a chance to see a lot of life from a lot of different perspectives. And I think one of the most important things that to keep in mind is that we all have a story to tell. And it's only when we sit down and talk are we able to communicate and come together and think about all the different things that we have in common and how we can solve our problems together, because we live together, we work together, and we want to solve our problems together. And that's the thing I want to bring to the table, is that sense of collaboration. And I also want to bring in multiple voices. So I said I want to be a voice. I want to have a bilingual voice. I want to have several voices in that supervisor's office that speak several languages that can greet individuals as they come into that office every day.
Well, I will say this. I think you are a very powerful voice for Lee District.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you coming and talking to us and letting other people get to know you who may not know you.
Thank you.
So please join us for the last segment in our show tonight. We're going to be talking with Alicia Plerhoples, who is running for chairman of Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. And please stay tuned because I want you to be involved.
This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help. And slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies.
Selfie. Nailed it. We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's split a ride home.
Being a dad is an adventure full of special moments.
A cruise?
Surprise!
Unexpected moments.
I got this.
And even awkward moments.
Okay, Dad, thank you.
But every moment you spend with your kids, even the smallest moments, can make the biggest impact on your child's life. So take a moment to be a dad today.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and tonight we are talking with 4 women who are running for office here in Fairfax County with the idea of helping to shape the future of this county. Joining me in this segment is Alicia Plerhoples, who is running for chairman of the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. Welcome, Alicia.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about you running for chairman.
Yes.
Because it apparently was a newsflash to Chairman Phyllis Randall in Loudoun County that technically you must run for chairman because that is technically the name of the office, gendered as it is.
Yes, and I was surprised as well. I started putting my the name of the position on my campaign materials, and people started asking me, you know, why are you calling it chairman? You're a woman, and you can call it chair or chairperson or chairwoman. And I said, and I found out through the news article with Phyllis Randall that it is chairwoman. I think that that speaks volumes as to the time we live in.
Well, what I did not realize until that article came out is that there actually was a bill this legislative session to consider changing it to the gender-neutral chair.
Yes.
And 5 men killed that in committee,
yes,
showing us yet again that the patriarchy is still alive. Yes. It's not our imagination. We're not making it up. Like, no, there are men who are like, no, we're not going to change that, even though women hold the position of chair.
Right. Yes, and we've had obviously 2 women that we currently have a woman in the position
I know,
of
Sharon
chair.
Bulova,
Yes,
Kate Hanley.
exactly.
I mean, we have had women in that position.
And I would say that it's not just about gender, but it's also about gender identity. And I think that the 5 men that were in that committee were also thinking about our LGBT community and thinking about what else would they have to change if they ceded the word chairwoman to this seat as well.
Well, you know, that was very interesting because when Danica Rome became a delegate, the first transgender woman to ever be elected, they changed the whole protocol in the House from gentleman and gentlewoman to just say delegate.
I had heard that.
And I think that's marvelous. Like, why don't we just take the gender out of things because anybody can hold these offices?
Yeah. Well, I would love the title chair, but I will take chairman if that's
there you go. And so let's talk a little bit about your background. You have a very interesting background. I mean, you've done many kinds of things, and people may not know actually all the qualifications that you bring to this.
Yes. So, you know, I come at this from the perspective of having 14 years of experience working in areas that are critical to the growth of Fairfax County. I've worked in real estate and land use. When I came out of law school, I was a real estate attorney in New York at one of the largest law firms, or a prominent law firm in New York City, doing commercial deals, real estate deals around the country.
And is that because of where you got your law degree?
Oh, yeah. Well, so I went to Yale for law school. Yes,
yeah, I think Yale graduates do kind of pretty well. Like New York firms are like, hey, do you want to come work here?
Exactly. But I actually chose to work at the firm that I did because I knew that they were leaders in real estate, and I wanted to transfer those skills from real estate over to community economic development, which is what I do. And now in my professional life, I am a law professor at Georgetown, and I teach in the area of community economic development, but I don't just teach, I practice as well. So I teach my students how to serve small businesses, nonprofit organizations, social enterprises, and we primarily do it for economic growth in Washington, D.C.
And so you've also got some experience with the lack of affordable housing and the fact that some people are a couple of paychecks away from finding themselves without a home.
Yes, and the reason I jumped into this race is I looked around and I thought to myself, who am I going to vote for? And the issues, unfortunately, that I care about deeply and for this county were not being discussed. And so my own background, not only do I bring this professional experience, but my own background is a personal experience with affordable housing and housing insecurity. So when I was 9 years old, my father was fired from his job, And that set off this chain of events for us. And we were evicted from our home, and I spent the bulk of my 4th grade year living in a motel room with my parents and my siblings because we could not find an affordable place to live. Now, that was a transformative experience for me, and that is why, I, in the future, have gone into community economic development in my career.
And we can all be as empathetic as we want to be, but there is no substitute for the lived experience. And I think that's the other thing when we talk about equity in this county, racial and socioeconomic equity in this county. There are people who have lived a different experience.
Yes.
And so they bring that with them. To live in a motel for most of your 4th grade year, we would think, well, how alarming, and yet that is not that uncommon in this county.
It's not uncommon, and that is part of why I'm running. I think that we are a wonderful county. I love living in this county, and we came to this county for its schools and its parks and the wonderful things that it has to offer. But the realities, some of the realities are masked by our county-wide statistics. So, for example, we can say that we only have 6% poverty in Fairfax County, but when you peel back the layers, we can see that in some pockets of our community that is high as 14%. We have 1 in 4 Fairfax County children are food insecure, and we have 55,000 students on free and reduced lunch.
Right, and those tend to be grouped. So you look at a map of the county, and there is great affluence here. There's no question about it. We're a highly educated population. We value education here, which is why the bulk of the county's budget is given to education. Undoubtedly that's why Hilton Worldwide and Volkswagen and now HQ2 want to be in Northern Virginia, or specifically in Fairfax. We have an educated workforce, excellent schools. There is wonderful housing if you have jobs in a certain segment.
Yes, and I recently found out today, actually I was touring a homeless shelter, and I found out today that it costs $70,000. That's the salary you have to afford a 2-bedroom home in Fairfax County.
And most people in service jobs are not making that.
They're not making $70,000.
And so this is why, without having a better variety of housing, when we talk about affordable housing, I think people go right to housing projects.
Right.
And that's not what we're talking about.
Right. And I want to make it clear too, it's affordable and workforce housing, but it's also about just the general affordability of Fairfax County. And this started long before, Amazon is coming to Arlington. This is an issue that I think that unfortunately we just haven't taken the aggressive steps that we need to make Fairfax County benefit all, and to make sure that we're not pushing people out of our county.
Well, it's like when I was talking with Ricardy earlier, it's like teachers can't afford to live where they work. And so they're teaching in other counties closer to where they live, which completely makes sense.
Right.
But, prioritizing teacher pay is something that, the state has made a bit of a move after 4,000 teachers descended on Richmond. That was very exciting. I was there that day. And so right in the middle of this protest, there's an alert from the Richmond Times-Dispatch, the House passed something to raise teacher pay by 5%.
Right.
And 5%, you're like, well, that's great, except they were grossly underpaid to begin with. So 5% doesn't even begin to bring them up to where they need to be.
And this is an issue that affects us all, no matter whether we know a teacher, or we have a teacher, or we know a county employee, or we'll have one in our family. This is not just a values issue, but this is an economic issue for the economic success and well-being of Fairfax County. Businesses in our county, we attract businesses to our county because they want an accessible workforce. If they have employees that are having to drive an hour and a half, 2 hours in traffic to get here, they are not going to want to locate here because they'll lose that accessible workforce.
So I think, some of us who have lived here a long time and are very maybe politically involved, or I work a lot with nonprofits and I work a lot with the schools, there's kind of like 2 different Fairfaxes.
Yes.
And that's why this whole initiative actually was called One Fairfax.
Yes.
Was acknowledging that there is a disparity and a gap. And we need to keep the gap from growing. And we really do need to have very specific initiatives to start closing it in substantive ways.
Exactly. And I think right now Fairfax County is on a crossroads. We're at this pivotal time in our history where we can choose to continue down the path of incrementalism, and I don't think that that's going to get us where we need to be in 10 years, or we can take more, as I said, aggressive steps to stemming the tide of unaffordability.
And I know of several people who definitely are very vocal about that, especially like my friend Scott Survell. Paul, who has some of the poorest Fairfax County residents in his district, and I know that he's been very vocal about the fact that the incrementalism and the way we have done it in sort of a developer-led plan for the county it's not cutting it in his district.
Yes, and I would agree with that. And I think that, as you said before, with One Fairfax policy, for example, that is a wonderful policy, and I think it's great aspirations, and I think that we are beginning to see some real results from that. But we need action items, and in terms of the actual growth of, or the growth of our county and where we're going to grow and where we're going to invest in, I think that parts of the county that Scott Sorovel represents are prime target areas for growth.
And I can understand his impatience, because it's not just the housing, there's also transportation, and all of these are intertwined. You know, you have transportation deserts, for instance, out in Centerville. The housing's more affordable out there, but unless you have a car, you can't get anywhere.
Yes. And I know this because I've been on the road campaigning, and I have to fill up my tank of gas just about twice a week now, because as much as I'm driving around, and there are places that really aren't accessible by transport. Again, I was out at the Kate Hanley homeless shelter today, and I was, you know, you see taxis come in because there's not a bus route that travels out into that area.
I know, and so think about that. You know, how come we don't have transportation going to the places like a family shelter where people need to get there?
Yes.
You know, I working with Western Fairfax Christian Ministries, they were saying it's hard for people who live in that Western Fairfax County to even get to the free food, a free food pantry, but you can't get there unless you have a car. So these are things that, you know, holistically we have got to figure out how the parts all fit together.
Yes, and I think it's time to, again, comprehensively look at certain areas of our county and think about where we can improve, right? I think unfortunately there has been this paradigm of constraint within the Board of Supervisors of, let's just say, you know, this is our budget, this is what we have, and now let's parcel out the pie and figure out where we can go. Unfortunately, I think we just need a shift in our thinking about this, a shift in the paradigm, and thinking, what do Fairfax County residents want? What do they deserve? And how are we going to fund that?
Grow the pie. So this is what I'm always telling people. I'm like, life is not a pie. It's not like if you get a bigger piece, I get a smaller piece, because you know something? Grow the pie.
Yes.
And there are opportunities certainly to grow the revenue in the county to match the kind of expenditures that we're talking about for the projects that matter to the people in this county.
Yes, exactly.
So I just want to say in our final minutes that on May the 21st, the Fairfax County Democratic Committee will be deciding who they are endorsing for these nonpartisan positions. And so people who want to support you.
But June 11th is the primary.
June 11th is the primary.
Is the primary, right. So for the supervisor position, June 11th, anybody can go out and vote for this position, and it's Fairfax County-wide because it's the chairman.
Fantastic. So people need to look for your website, and they need to get more information, and they need to show up on June 11th.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much to everyone viewing at home. I hope these 4 candidates have shed some light on their vision.